African penguins in South Africa are facing a catastrophic population collapse as industrial fishing depletes their primary food source. Intense harvesting of sardines near critical breeding colonies has left adult penguins unable to find enough food for themselves or their chicks, leading to widespread starvation. Despite urgent warnings from scientists that the species is nearing extinction, commercial fishing operations continue unabated in these essential waters. This ongoing resource conflict highlights the desperate need for immediate marine conservation intervention to prevent the permanent loss of this iconic bird. What makes this crisis even more tragic is that the solution is already known. Scientists have repeatedly shown that when no fishing zones are established around penguin breeding colonies, survival rates rise almost immediately. Adult penguins can hunt closer to shore, chicks are fed more often, and entire colonies begin to stabilize, but without legal protection. These safe zones exist only on paper. As food grows scarce, penguins are forced to swim farther and farther into open waters, burning precious energy just to return empty. Many never make it back. Chicks left waiting in the nest, weaken day by day, their calls growing quieter until they fade completely. Entire breeding seasons are now failing, pushing the species closer to the edge with each passing year. This is no longer a distant environmental issue, it is a direct consequence of human choice. Industrial fishing fleets extract millions of tons of sardines from the same waters penguins have relied on for thousands of years, prioritizing short-term profit over the survival of an entire species. Once these fish are gone, they cannot be replaced, and neither can the penguins that depend on them. If African penguins disappear, it will not be due to natural causes, but because we allowed it to happen despite clear warnings and clear solutions. Protecting key feeding zones, enforcing seasonal fishing bans, and committing to sustainable ocean management could still reverse this decline. The window for action is narrow, but it remains open. The fate of the African penguin now rests in human hands. What happens next will determine whether future generations see these birds alive on South Africa's shores or only in documentaries, as a symbol of a preventable extinction. And the consequences won't stop with the penguins. African penguins are a vital indicator species when they collapse. It signals that the entire marine ecosystem is breaking down. The same overfishing that starves penguins also threatens seals, dolphins, and coastal communities that depend on healthy oceans for their livelihoods. What is happening now is not just a wildlife tragedy, but an ecosystem failure in real time. Rescue efforts are struggling to keep up. Rehabilitation centers receive emaciated penguins every day, many too weak to survive despite intensive care. Volunteers can save individuals, but they cannot save a species without systemic change. Without food in the ocean, there is nothing to return these birds to, yet there is still hope. In areas where fishing restrictions have been temporarily enforced, penguin foraging success has improved and chick survival has increased. These results prove that recovery is possible, but only if action is taken immediately and permanently. Delay means death, not in decades, but within just a few breeding cycles. This moment demands accountability. Governments, fishing industries, and consumers all play a role. Choosing sustainability, enforcing science-based policies, and valuing biodiversity over short-term gain could mean the difference between recovery and extinction. The African penguin is running out of time. If we fail to act now, the silence left behind on South Africa's shores will be a reminder that extinction is not always inevitable, but sometimes chosen. History will judge this moment by what we choose to protect. The African penguin has survived ice ages, shifting oceans, and natural predators, but it may not survive unchecked human exploitation, allowing industrial fleets to dominate critical feeding grounds while a species collapses in plain sight sets a dangerous precedent. For all marine life, every empty nest tells the same story. Parents return exhausted, chicks weaken, and colonies that once echoed with sound grow quieter each year. What was once one of Africa's most abundant seabirds has been reduced to scattered, fragile populations clinging to survival. This is not a lack of knowledge. It is a lack of will. Scientists, conservationists, and local communities have spoken with one voice. Protect the food, and the penguins will recover. The cost of inaction is irreversible loss, while the cost of action is simply restraint. The final outcome has not yet been written. Strong protection of sardine stocks, enforcement of marine protected areas, and immediate limits on industrial fishing near breeding colonies could still change the trajectory. But time is the one resource that cannot be replenished. If action is delayed any longer, the African penguin will vanish, not with a sudden catastrophe, but with a slow, silent disappearance, one that the world saw coming and failed to stop. When the last African penguin disappears, it won't happen with headlines or alarms. It will happen quietly. One colony will fail, then another, until researchers stop finding chicks altogether. By the time the world notices, the damage will already be complete. This loss would erase more than a species. African penguins shape the coastal ecosystem, cycling nutrients from sea to land and supporting a balance that has existed for millennia. Their collapse would leave a biological void, altering shorelines and food webs in ways that science may never fully undo. What makes this crisis unforgivable is that it is reversible. Temporary fishing closures, science-backed catch limits, and real enforcement, not symbolic promises, could still allow sardine populations to recover. With food restored, penguins rebound faster than most endangered species. Nature is ready to heal if given the chance. The choice now is stark. Continue business as usual and accept extinction as collateral damage, or intervene decisively and prove that conservation can still win against industrial pressure. The African penguin stands at the edge of history. Whether it steps back from extinction or disappears forever depends entirely on what happens next.